Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Accelerating Digital Transformation in Qatar Post-COVID-19 webinar, which is organized by KPMG in Qatar. I will start by giving you some guidelines on the event today. And for that, I would like to ask you for a couple of things. First, we will be having some poll questions during the event today. So the agenda will start by talking about some sectors and how they're recovering post-COVID-19. Then we will be talking about the enterprise-wide digital strategy, the trends that would accelerate the digital agenda, and finally some Q&A. We'll allow hopefully around 15 minutes for that. Back to the guidelines I wanted to tell you about. So we will be having some poll questions. We will really appreciate your participation on those. You will see them to the right of the screen. You will get some questions, and you will give you 1 minute to give your answers. Those would help us also guide the discussion in the direction that most interests the attendees. You will be able to post your Q&A throughout the session, also to the right under the Q&A tab. Please feel free to post the questions you want. We will try to answer as many as we can. The ones that we don't have time to answer during this session will be addressed per email to the attendees later on. Each attendee will get an answer to his question. The last point I would like to ask you for is your feedback. When you exit the session, you will be directed to a feedback screen. Kindly give us your feedback about the impression of your impression of the session and interest in new topics in the future. So, having said that, I will gladly introduce the speakers with me today, all from KPMG Qatar. I have with me my colleague Amr Bazarbashi, who is leading our cybersecurity team in Qatar. With me also Shakib, who leads the digital transformation topics. Devesh focuses on data and analytics. Mustafa on infrastructure and cloud. And my co-host, Monica, has her focus on enterprise solutions. My name is Nizar Hnaini, and I am leading the digital and innovation advisory practice. So let us start with the first point, how the sectors are recovering post-COVID-19. At KPMG, we're looking at two dimensions. One of them is the impact of change, or how the economics of the businesses are impacted due to COVID, and the speed of recovery during and beyond COVID. And we have identified 4 types of recoveries. One of them is what we call the L-shaped, which is the top left corner. Those are industries or enterprises that have a hard reset, because the recovery will be slow, and the demand for the businesses in the current form won't be going back to where it was. Clearly, we're talking about energy, oil and gas, and even hospitality and air travel. To the bottom left corner are industries that are seeing they'll go back, they're picking up, but that would be a gradual one, and they need to change their businesses to re-emerge. Those would be industries like automotive, where there will be demand picking up, but definitely not like as quick as before, or insurance services. Now, going to the other side of the grid, we'll look at the bottom right, which are businesses where the demand will pick up quickly, as quick as it went down, and those are services like banking, consumer goods. The top right part of the grid are the industries that have seen a surge due to the COVID, and those would be technology-related businesses and healthcare and life sciences. Now, one important thing, no matter where you are on this grid, the destiny is in your hand. If you are innovative enough, if you can guide your business properly through the crisis and can convince your shareholders that you will grow again, the story is different. And one main enabler for you is how are you taking care of digital? How are you doing your digital transformation? This brings us to the next slide. At KPMG, we look at any enterprise, no matter what sector it is, through three different lenses. You have the front office, which is the part that has the touch points with the clients. You have the middle office, which is the operations, supply chain, the fulfillment of the business. And you have the back office, the enablers, which includes IT, HR, finance. Now, digital transformation has seen several waves. The first one was only focused on the part where there are touch points with the clients. Now we see more push towards the back end and the middle end and the back end. But a major lesson that we are learning now with COVID-19 is you need to have a holistic end-to-end story for your digital. If you go with a piecemeal approach where you're looking at only bits and pieces of your enterprise, that will not take you far, and that will not help you accommodate the changes that COVID is imposing on all of us. Now, throughout this webinar, we're going to go through major technology trends that would help you come up with a holistic digital transformation story to help you cope with the changes that came already our way. And for that, we will be talking about different aspects: analytics, cybersecurity, cloud. But I will start with the digital experience. And for that, I would like to ask my colleague Shakib, with the COVID-19 transformation that is being imposed on all the businesses, how do you think the digital experience piece can help enterprises transform and become more efficient and use digital as a strategic means of transformation?
Well, Nizar, this pandemic will certainly result in a huge transformation in the way organizations communicate, do business, and interact with customers, suppliers, regulators, and other third parties. And you were right when you talked about changing behaviors in the post-COVID-19 period, because the first and most noticeable change that we've all seen is the switch towards digital channels and platforms, especially with the lockdown measures that were put in place. And this is actually applicable across sectors and businesses. This trend will continue to extend in the post-COVID-19 period, with more and more services being available online for customers to use. And just to give some examples, we can take the real estate sector, where we can see more companies offering online virtual visits to their customers. In relation to that, we can also talk about the financial sector, where we can see an extension of new online services, such as mortgage and loan applications, especially with the new Qatar fintech hub that was recently launched. We can even talk as recently as this week about the Facebook, which just launched a new mobile payment service on WhatsApp in Brazil. And we can use this to visualize a little bit the new trend that's coming up, which is the integrated platform-based digital business models that we will see popping up in the coming years. This digital shift will have sustainable implications on customer experience. And this is actually the second area where we'll see the digital transformation play a huge role in the post-COVID-19 period. In fact, this digital shift, along of course with the economic and social impacts of the lockdown, have profoundly changed some existing customer journeys and even led to the creation of new ones. For example, we can talk about the surge in degraded journeys that companies have seen with their customers. For example, when they are unable to pay their invoices timely, or when they cancel confirmed orders, or even when they consider a renegotiation of their existing contracts. We've also seen a surge in customer service requests related to delays in delivering services, or changes in operating hours, or due to a reduced availability of frontline staff within organizations. So in light of these new customer journeys and all the impacts that we talked about, we expect three trends to be explored by companies in the short and medium term to hack customer growth and retention. The first of those is that companies should be looking at reviewing and prioritizing customer journeys across all relevant touch points in order to align with a customer-centric strategy and with the new digital reality and changing customer behaviors. Afterwards, organizations across sector should be looking at deploying self-service desk solutions and AI-based virtual assistants to improve the efficiency of the IT help desk and customer-facing staff. And thirdly, we expect organizations to implement, review, or add more flexibility to their customer retention and loyalty strategies, especially in some industries where customers are more inclined to compare service providers and go for more competitive offers. So we've talked about digital platforms, about customer experience, but we should also talk about the digital experience that is provided to employees. And we've certainly seen companies investing hugely in assisting employees to be digitally empowered through remote working. But we think that this is not enough, and it will not stop here. The digital experience for employees will cover the whole life cycle, from recruitment to exit and through productivity, for example. With that regard, I think that organizations will invest in the coming months in upscaling virtual collaboration technology and IT infrastructure for more interaction, mobility, flexibility, and performance monitoring of their employees. We also think that there should be a lot of training and upskilling in the coming period, especially for IT help desk, HR staff, and support personnel at first because of the new remote working processes, but also for employees and front-end staff, especially with the new channels and customer behaviors. And more importantly, for managers and executive teams, especially with the new challenges related to reduced visibility on employee productivity and related to inclusion as well. I also think that organizations will be investing in reviewing their internal processes and procedures for HR recruitment and leave, and for security and privacy policies, especially with all the regulatory risks related to accessing sensitive data remotely. But I think Anna will touch on this later on during this session. The last, maybe some of the last points I want to talk about is some sectors such as utilities and oil and gas industry, where working remotely is more difficult to achieve. So other solutions can be explored in this area. For example, with digital twin technology for oil and gas and industry, where you can implement sensors and data collection points to allow employees to perform some tasks such as supervision and maintenance remotely. For other sectors, such as utilities, for example, we can explore remote meter reading technology as well. So yeah, these are all digital enablements that can be explored to empower employees in the digital era after COVID-19. Nizar, one last point I want to touch upon is the relation between companies and other external third parties. And I can give here two examples. Some organizations might be investing in automated online platforms to publish their regulatory reports to their regulators. Others can be exploring digital supply chain technology in order to utilize customer demand forecasting tools in order to optimize their inventory purchase orders, for example. But these are just some examples to illustrate the new digital delivery models that we will see in the post-COVID-19 era. And I would be happy to discuss this further during the question and answer section.
Great. Thanks, Shakib, for those insights on digital experience and how it's being utilized by in different use cases by different industries and sectors. Let us see what our attendees think about the importance of digital experience and how they are putting their investments there. So we'd like to go for a poll question. It's to the right. You will see the poll question coming now. You'll have 1 minute, dear attendees, to respond. And it would be about your investments in digital experience. Are you gonna invest in digital experience enablement in 2021, 2022? And in which area? Would it be more on digital channels and customer experience, or on your business, digital business models, products and services? Third option is on internal digital collaboration and automation, or you don't plan to invest on those in coming 2 years. What do you think, Shakib? I think most in Qatar would be working on the channels and the customer experience.
Well, Nizar, I do agree with you on that. So we've seen most companies invest already on digital collaboration and automation technology. I think it's not enough at this stage. There's more to do, but I totally agree with you. Maybe most of our participants will go for digital channels and customer experience, as I think this would be key in the coming years.
Great. We'll see the poll results in a bit. So you'll have the results now published to the right of the screen where the question was. Okay, so as expected, mostly will be investing in digital channels, and that makes sense because everyone wants now to reduce the reliance on the physical channels and move to the digital ones and optimize the customer experience there. Thanks again, Shakib. After you told us about all the trends in digital experience and the technology that's being implemented there, I'm sure that would mean a lot of data coming from the client through all these different processes. And for that, let's hear from our colleague Devesh. How do you think, Devesh, the enterprises can deal or cope with all the surge in the data that they are gathering?
Thank you, Nizar. This is a very interesting question. Now, with the advancement of technology and digitalization that Shakib spoke about, the automatic byproduct is going to be a data search, or we say availability of a lot of data, right? But is this data that we're talking about just available today? The answer is no, right? The World Economic Forum identifies 3 major revolutions till date, one by steam, second by power, and third by IT. They're already predicting a 4th major revolution, which would be the data. Now, why the reason they say that is because 95% of the data that exists today has already been transformed in the last few years. It is only going to increase by the said digital transformation that Shakib pointed out. Now, with that said, some of the questions that can come into the mind would be, for example, can I trust my data? Do I have the right quality that I can use? Do I have a 360-degree view of the data sets? Can I take important and critical decisions to enable the future of my organization or drive efficiency and optimization based on the data? The potential answer to that is no, but the need to do that is a big yes. But when you talk about data, there are 2 critical aspects that I want to draw your attention to. One, data quality, and second, data governance. This is easier said than done. Once you have established the right data quality, where you're able to trust the data that you have, you need to establish a data governance model for your organization with certain people whose responsibility would be only to govern this data. With that established, you venture out into more technical concepts. For example, master data management, enterprise data warehouse, data modeling, and then data visualization. Once you have this established, the core message that comes out is the right people have the right data at the right time to make the right decisions. But is that enough? This is a very big question. Just because you as an organization have a lot of data which you can play with to churn around for making improved decisions does not mean that if you are doing what you are doing as it is, without surging on the digital transformation wave, you would be able to drive efficiency and optimization, which is the need of the hour for post-optimization. For example, there are certain concepts that need to be imbibed in today's world, which are, for example, predictive analytics, machine learning and artificial intelligence, digital labor, commonly known as intelligent automation. Some of these concepts we'll be talking about in today, and I will try to give some industry examples as well so that people can connect. Digital labor or intelligent automation, right? Can we start using the data that we have already, but still continue to harbor on manual intensive labor? The potential answer is no. There are several industries in the world where you have certain sections which can be completely automated and use the labor to do some intensive jobs to take decisions that are more important. For example, procurement. As a procurement specialist, if I have to still have a lot of people to do a three-way match or a four-way match and not use the people for driving efficiency, it's a waste of time. Imagine the entire scenario getting replaced by intelligent bots. They would be able to do the three-way match or four-way match and give you quicker answers, human error prone answers in a span of time. Another example could be human resources. With a lot of regulatory changes going around the world, there are certain concepts that goes on, right? For example, the HR has to give you a lot of outputs, a lot of FYI information, they send emails, etc. And a lot is going around in the world. With that said, imagine a bot replacing all of that. So it is all about driving efficiency and improving on the optimization techniques. Another thing could be predictive analytics. Now imagine you have a lot of historical data that has been meshed together in your organization. What if you can predict the outcome even before landing into that scenario? So that is the power that data analytics or advanced data analytics can give it to you. Similarly, the future of predictive modeling is going into machine learning and artificial intelligence. Now, in machine learning and artificial intelligence, you combine with regulatory changes, human behavior, and a lot of aspects that the machine imbibes during the course of its turn events to actually help you plan scenarios. Now, as you see on the screen, we have pointed out a few examples that I was talking about. Now, some industry-specific examples that I want to point out, for example, in the utility sector or the oil and gas sector, the optimization and efficiency drives on various parameters. Now, my colleague Shakib spoke about digital twins. So imagine if you have to plan for your oil rigs, you can use the power of data analytics to actually simulate a digital oil field and transform just by using your data and explore. So this is what we are calling scenario planning. What if something goes wrong? The typical what if scenarios are getting answered by using your data at the right time. In a scenario which we are currently today, which is a basic pandemic of corona and COVID-19 popularly known as, is this the end? The potential answer is again, no. You can explore such similar pandemics in the world. So what is a healthcare institution to do? You need to ensure that you gather all the data from every single point of healthcare, coupled with your medical history, coupled with the doctor's recommendation, and transform that with using the leading models such as SEIR, which is a very famous epidemiological model used by doctors, and predict your outcomes. It can also help you plan your social distancing phenomena. How do you open up the country for various activities? And also, government regulatory changes can be embedded into this. Another example could potentially be the banking industry. There are so many credit card frauds that is going around in the world, right? So if you have the power of machine learning and artificial intelligence, the machine would be able to actually predict the scenarios where, based on the user behavior, the transaction type, it would be able to let you know where the fraud can happen and how. There are several examples that I can cover in, and I'm sure in the question and answer section, I'll be more than happy to let you know of various other examples that you can come across. But the key message that I want to drive today is the decision making in the organization needs to happen using the data. It is the time to change and enable the people to drive efficiency. There are so many examples of organizations who did not transform the wave, and we all know where they ended. And I hope that is not the case with the companies in Qatar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Devesh, for the insights on the data and analytics and the different use cases in different industries. We'll go back now to our attendees, and we'll post our second poll question to the right of the screen, and it would be related to the topic we just heard about. So, regarding your analytics investment and the topics you would like to focus on, based on your capabilities and based on the new reality of COVID, where are you now in your analytics journey? Are you going to start the journey now by starting to implement an analytics capability, or you will transform your existing decision-making processes and analytics platforms with new capabilities, or you will start exploring intelligent automation and AI opportunities, or data analytics is not a priority for you in the coming period? What do you think, Devesh? Where would our attendees and our enterprises in Qatar be in their analytics journey?
So as you know, Nizar, we are working with great minds in the state of Qatar, right? And per my understanding, most of the people have actually started their journey towards becoming data-driven. But with that said, they have still not achieved what is the requirement of the hour. So in my view, I would say they need to start transforming by implementing platforms which could enable them to drive decisions and drive efficiency. So the most common answer should be point B.
Well, that's what it is also. So I think our clients are building those analytics capabilities in their decision-making processes, and hopefully this will help them. The right implementation will help them start to reap the benefits of the power of analytics in their processes. Thanks, Devesh. After hearing about the data analytics use cases, we also talked about digital experience. So I think it's a good time to talk about cloud technology and how it would enable both powerful analytics use cases and a distinguished experience in the digital sphere. Especially lately in Qatar, last year, end of last year and earlier this year, we heard about the hyperscalers coming to the region, Microsoft and Google. And I'd like to hear from our colleague Mustafa about his view, how that would give a push to the digital transformation agenda, especially post-COVID-19.
Yeah, thank you, Nizar. First of all, we have to acknowledge that Qatar is now becoming a cloud hub in the region, and this will no doubt provide an attractive alternative for businesses in Qatar. Most importantly is that this announcement from Google and Microsoft coincides with times in which IT operational and financial cycles are going through unprecedented happenings, definitely caused by the COVID-19, right? So where businesses worldwide are facing unknown risks regarding their IT spending. And we've seen that during the ongoing pandemic, that there is a huge rise in the consumption of cloud services, as you have mentioned earlier, that the search companies are, experiencing a huge growth. Among them, we have Microsoft, Google, and all the cloud providers. So COVID is literally a digital transformation accelerator, and this trend will definitely continue, right? But it's also mentioned by my colleagues, Shakib and Devesh, there will be a huge need for digital tools in the future, be it for remote work, for more service provisioning like digital billing, as mentioned, to conduct automated workflows, AI chatbots. Most of those tools are cloud-based or perform better on the cloud due to their dynamic resource demand. And this is one of the main benefits for cloud services. It allows businesses to benefit from advanced innovations hosted centrally and managed by the experts. So they have to just lean back and let the experts update, upgrade those solutions, and always, provide the best for them, right? So therefore, I think that companies must revise their strategy or detail existing ones if they already have cloud strategies. So definitely, companies will be more aggressive in cloud adoption compared to the previous years, where we have seen, for example, that some of the businesses that they had a kind of a lax attitude towards cloud adoption or cloud implementation, even if theoretically they were aiming for cloud first strategy, right? But on the practical side, they still have 70 to 80% of the infrastructure operated on premises. Well, we do understand, sure, that there are some challenges, and they have some challenges when it comes to cloud adoption because of some of the ongoing investments they have or agreed contracts that they need to honor. But in any case, Nizar, I think businesses can't ignore that cloud will play an even more important role in the future of IT compared to conventional way or premises, and allowing, for example, hybrid solutions. Well, no cloud, no hybrid. Hybrid or cloud in general will definitely help companies. But we have also, when it comes to cloud, we have to mention one concern, and very important one, which is data protection and security in the cloud. And we've seen in that context that countries worldwide and governance companies are reacting to that. In Germany, for example, in France, we see that both countries are planning to build own cloud platform to ensure that the cloud platforms are adhering to local law, that data are staying within the countries. And with the hyperscalers coming to Qatar, I think the businesses can ensure that their data remain here in the country. But to conclude, Nizar, definitely, so the presence of the internet giants in Qatar will provide businesses with a wide range of benefits, and will also enable their digital transformation journey, no doubt.
Thanks, Mustafa. I think hyperscalers and also the initiatives taken by local ISPs in the cloud area, we will see a surge in an uptake of cloud services. The clients or the enterprises need to see which services they want to migrate when and come up with a proper roadmap. But let us see how the attendees look at that. How are they pushing to move to the cloud? Are they? And for that, we'll have a poll question now posted to the right of the screen again, and we hope our attendees will take time to respond to the question. It would be about how aggressive are they in pushing their services towards the cloud. We're having three options here. First, they're planning to have a clear look at the services and see how they're benefiting from them. So that's starting a journey with the cloud, or they already triggered initiatives to leverage cloud services and go for cloud first strategy, or they are not considering a switch to the services, to the cloud services at the moment. What do you think, Mustafa? Where are enterprises in Qatar at the moment with the cloud?
Well, I would say that the planning phase or the consideration phase is already done, because most of the businesses, they already see cloud as a very important part of their digital transformation. So the B, I think, would be more, because I would say that they are now experimenting that they have to trigger and are triggering some initiatives towards that.
Good. And the result confirms what you've said. I would have thought maybe still there is some planning to be done, which is coming second, but definitely majority are considering the cloud and contemplating a move there. Thank you for the insights, Mustafa. So now we've heard about the experience, we've heard about analytics, which would support you throughout and in all aspects of your business going digital, and cloud, which would be helpful to ease the pressure of upgrading and developing your own infrastructure. But if we don't talk about security, which encompasses all the other technologies, then we wouldn't be considering the right digital transformation approach. And for that, we're going to have our colleague Amr explain to us a bit what security considerations should be taken throughout your digital transformation journey, and especially beyond COVID-19 and all the increase in attacks and the threats that we're seeing with COVID. So Amr, over to you.
Thank you, Nidar. Like Nidar was saying, I will just try to add a different point of view, and it will be, of course, the point of view related to my area, the security. In your screens, you can see now a diagram showing what we are calling now the new reality. And at work, this is basically what's happening at work. And this slide will help me to showcase different points related to today's topic, like digital experience, data, cloud. So if we start looking at this slide, what we can see is, like I said, the new way of working is a remote way. We are using now our laptops, collaboration tools, management tools from our home. So I want to provide you like what kind of security requirements or recommendations we should have now for working from home. So what are the security controls that we need? There are, let's say, a lot of technology controls that are required. I will tell you an example of them. Identity and access management tools. You need to have a CASB solutions. You need to have, for example, let's say if you are going to manage logs, you need to have the proper logs collected. You need to have someone revising it. If you are going to use encryption, you need to have it in rest with the laptop, with the storage. And if it's in motion, also you need to have it encrypted. You need to have secure VPNs to whenever you connect to internal network. You need DLP solutions to avoid leakage of information, some kind of surprises that these many companies are finding. Or even you need DNS security. But even I can tell you 100 of these type of technical controls, and it will be not enough. And why is not enough? It's very simple, because you have to cover also the people controls. People must be trained and people must be aware. So if you are not covering this, for sure, all your strategy and security will be incomplete. The other thing that also you have to take into consideration, and it's related to the companies, that they have to adapt their processes. Many times I hear my colleagues talking about upgrading or updating the company, the way you are working, but also you need to reflect that in the processes. If processes are not updated, people will not know how to work. Processes is, let's say, the core of the companies. You have to start from the human processes, how to do different kind of things, to the technology, how to update, how to patch, how to do the change management, since now we are doing the meetings from home. But there is, from all the controls that I was mentioning, there is one especially that now is very, very important. And it will be related to managing the identities and the access they have. And the model that everyone now recommends to follow is the zero trust model whenever we talk about identities. So I will explain you a little bit what is the meaning of that. Now, as I'm saying, and I will repeat again, we are working from home, so there is no borders to the offices. You are working from home, you are connecting to the core of your company, to data centers. So the zero trust model requires that every identity must be verified before, this is really very important, before providing access. Because there are some mistakes that sometimes they verify after they have the access to see if they can modify, they can share this information, and this is really a wrong model. You should verify before it. And when you tell me, and what should I verify? You should verify a lot of things. Let's say, for example, the first thing, you should verify that the access rights are aligned with the role of this person. You should verify that the access rights, for example, from some countries are denied. If every one of your company is working only from Qatar, you have to make sure that no one from outside Qatar is accessing. Let's say access rights during, for example, suspicious hours. If you know that your employees are working only during 8 hours, let's say from 8 to 6, then if someone's accessing at 3 in the morning, this is something that must be revised. And of course, you have to make sure, for example, that only people can access from their corporate devices or devices with the corporate certificate. So these kind of things are really very important to take into consideration. But now, let's say, if we talk about data, because today we're talking about data, if you look at my slide, let's say, data, where can you find data? You can find data here in the end user. You can find data here in the internal network. And you can find data, of course, here in the data cloud. So what is happening with the data? So data is distributed, it's not only in one place, and this makes it a little bit more difficult to protect it, because you must think that maybe some natural disasters may happen, some human errors may happen, or even worse, some hacking, say someone may be hacking your systems and maybe trying to access your data. So the issue of that you may face penalties if you get, let's say, hacked. You may have fines, you will lose the confidence of people. So it is important to know that what is doing Qatar to avoid these kind of things. So you can look it from 2 points of view. If you see it from the regulators, we can see now that there's a lot of activity now focused on critical infrastructure sectors. Let's say, for example, banks, utilities, telecommunication ministries. All of these, they are now updating all the framework that they are working on. And even you can see now that national frameworks are being updated. Like, I will tell you an example. National Information Assurance Framework is now being updated. National Incident Management Framework is being updated. So this is from, let's say, national-wide or regulator point of view. But also enterprises now, they are getting some kind of, let's say, solutions for solving this. And what we can see at this moment, that enterprises are looking for resilient solutions. They are looking for also doing a business continuity properly tested with all the communication. done with all, let's say, the processes, with all the disaster recovery and also testing it. These are things that are happening, and if any company is not doing it now, at least they are planning, or now they know how to do that. And just to conclude, I will talk about cloud. Since this is another of the topics, I will be very fast saying that cloud is not secure by default. This is something that people may think that is secure by default, or people also know that no. But you have to think that security in the cloud is a shared responsibility. I don't care if you have infrastructure or platform or software as a service, always the data is your responsibility and the endpoint. And even I will give you like a last thing, a number about Gartner saying that 95% of the cloud issues that are going to happen during this year, it will be because of customer fault. And if we go to 2025, the issues will be 99% related to the customer and not to the cloud provider. I think this will be, in a very brief, what I think we can talk about security about these points.
Thank you. I know, Amr, security is a never-ending story, and it's very important to include in all the digital initiatives. So we need always to be thinking about secure by design while we're planning our initiatives. So let us before we move on to the Q&A, take the final poll of today's session. So it will appear now to the right, and we'd like to understand from the enterprises in Qatar, how are they investing in cybersecurity with COVID-19 around. So the first option is you're not changing your plans because lack of resources to allocate, or B, there is no change in plan because already cybersecurity was prioritized, or C, you're going to invest more, which was decided before COVID-19, or D, the investment is going to happen because of COVID-19. What do you think, Amr? How did COVID-19 influence the security investment, especially with the crunch or the crisis happening all over the world, and the pressure on the finances of the companies?
I tell you, usually the people will select between C and D, depending on if they are shy to recognize that before the COVID-19, they didn't really invest a lot in security and they didn't plan, or, for example, even before the COVID, they were already having a strategy of investing in security. But for sure, it has to be distributed between C and D.
Let's see what the poll results are. They should appear now any second. Yes, so mostly are going to be investing more due to COVID-19. I mean, as you were rightly talking, Amr, so any cybersecurity, any digital initiative has to be accompanied by the right investment in cybersecurity. And very important takeaway is going to the cloud does not mean that you're automatically secure. It just puts a different angle on your security and where you need to collaborate with your cloud provider. Thank you, Amr, and thanks to all the panelists. I would hand over the last 10 minutes to my co-host Monica to pick some of the questions that we received and ask those. Please, Monica.
Thank you, Nazar. Thank you to all the panelists for sharing your valuable insights. We have had quite a few interesting questions which have come up from the audience. So I'll address them topic-wise. First, we would go with digital experience. So Shakib, this question is for you. As customer experience moves towards a more hyper-personalized experience, what kind of operational constraints should companies consider in order to fulfill this demand? And how should they plan to mitigate these?
Yes, so first of all, there is a point in the question. We talk about hyper-personalized customer experience that's beginning to happen. Actually, this is a trend that started way before COVID-19. It's really something that all organizations should be focused on. And when it comes to challenges in implementing this personalized customer experience, I can think of two main points. The first one is the difficulty companies have in understanding their customers, the behavior of their customers, their priorities, their expectations, their preferred way of interaction with the organization. And to be fairly honest, the way we can solve this or we can cater to this need is simply by deploying a real and strong customer strategy, defining our persona, customer personas and customer segments, knowing their pains and their expectations, accurately defining the customer journeys through a journey mapping exercise, and prioritizing the journeys that matter most for our clients. Because we cannot obviously cater all, we cannot always cater for all the journeys that our customers have. One last point about customer understanding, and which is a very important one, is access to customer data, good quality, fresh, up-to-date customer data. And this can really be leveraged, especially after the COVID-19 period, because of all the digital channels that have been used by our customers and digital interactions we have with them. The 2 points that comes to my mind when thinking about a personalized customer experience is how we can change our organization, how we can instill this customer culture throughout the organization. And here the graph that Nizar showed at the beginning of the webinar comes to my mind, where you see this connected enterprise from back office to middle office to front office. Every part of the organization should really embrace the customer centricity mindset, from strategy to operations to IT. One advice I would give organizations is to start with a customer experience assessment, maturity assessment, which will help them identify the key areas where there are gaps and where they should put their efforts and priority in order to come to this customer centricity. I hope this answers the question.
Yes, thanks, Shakib. That's quite helpful, actually. And our next question also touches upon the same point. So like you mentioned, how it's connected throughout the organization these days. Our next question is for cybersecurity, which is that with more digitization happening for companies, from your vendors till your customers, where all your processes and data are part of a wider digital network, what kind of security measures do you think SMEs can invest in to secure and protect their data and processes? I think, Amar, you can take this and address more towards the SME groups that we have out there.
Yes. Hello, thank you for your question. So I will tell you, I will start saying that, of course, there is no magic pill for security or a magic vaccine, like now we are looking all for a vaccine. But I can tell you what is the approach that I would recommend, and of course, it's based in the best standards and practices that you find all related to security. What we recommend always is to start with a risk assessment. Once you do the risk assessment, you will identify all, of course, your vulnerabilities, what threats attack them, and the impacts that they may impact. So what will happen with that? You will identify then, after knowing your risk, you will identify your security controls. Once you have your security controls, you can distribute it. Some things will be related to technology, some controls will be related to people, and some things will be related, of course, to the processes itself. So between those, depending always on the budget that now companies have, because you know now with the issue that's happening with the COVID, maybe you will have less money or more to invest. But at the end, from all the controls that you have, there are some controls that can cover a lot of the risk and are not very expensive. I will tell you an example is giving awareness to the people. So these kind of controls, you have to select them, what are the best in cost benefit, and then you can apply them. And of course, there are always technical solutions, there are always people or processes, but no one will cover all. You have to cover always these three legs.
Great. Thanks, Amar. Now I'll move on to our next question, which is for analytics. Devesh, I think you can address this. Now the question is, would you recommend small size operations to operate RPA And which departments would you recommend this for? And this is ideally for companies which are 100 to 250 employees.
Thank you, Monica. I think the second part of the question actually triggers a lot of thought-provoking answers, right? When you are a mid-sized company, about say 100 to 250 employees, that means you're automatically at a strain of doing a lot of work or a lot of redundant work, and yet embrace the fact that customer is the main target for you, right? So when you talk about RPA or robotic process automation, or significantly also called as digital labor, there are many factors that you should be considering because, like I said, the prime target is customer satisfaction. So some of the areas that you can potentially think about digital automation in your company should be, for example, KYC. It could be about fraudulent transaction analytics. It could be AML. It could be also customer onboarding. And there are several other examples that I can lay for you, which you should be doing at, even if it's a mid-sized organization within the banking industry. But the last point is that I want to touch upon is digital automation, or RPA as you want to call it, only drives efficiency and optimization, right? Which is the need of the hour. But you need to further enhance it by advanced analytics to ensure you are also looking at customer segmentation. Because at the bank, that is where you have to really enforce yourself into. I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
I just want to add maybe one point for an SME or a small size company. When it comes to RPA investments, I would suggest and I would advise to really focus on priority use cases where value can be seen in the short term, and to invest gradually, not to put all your money in one process, but to start gradually, process by process, until you realize the full value of an RPA process.
Absolutely, I do agree. Prioritization of our use cases does make a lot of sense. So hopefully that answers your question, and we are happy to take any further. Thank you.
I think it does. Thank you, Devesh and Shakib. Now, for the next question, I think this one's for you, Mustafa. Can both Microsoft and Google have market in Qatar? What do you think?
Well, thank you, Monica. Since we are already out of time, I would maybe answer that very briefly in a few seconds. Hyperscalers have regions across the globe, in Asia, in Europe, and in the US. With those companies coming to Qatar, this will bring importance to the country and will bring a lot of attention to the businesses in the country. However, this is a benefit for the companies inside the country to have those hyperscalers here and to leverage that for their own benefit. So.
Thanks, Mustafa. I think, Monica, we take the last question, and then we'll have to close.
Yeah, sure. Actually, Nazar, I'll point out the last question to you so you can even give your closing remarks right after. So the last question is, given the current situation and cost-cutting measures which have been implemented across the region, if a company wishes to use digital transformation to better manage its workforce, what kind of use cases should be considered to help optimize the workforce?
Thanks, Monica. Actually, a good question to try and webinar on a positive note. We are all hearing of the difficulties a lot of us as individuals or as enterprises are facing globally and here in the region and in Qatar, of course. So I would like to stress that with each crisis comes an opportunity. We're witnessing some of them. For some of us, the older ones, like me, we've seen the crisis 2008 and the impact on businesses, but also how economies recovered quickly. And I think Qatar is very well positioned to have a quicker recovery than most. And for your question on the digital use cases to manage the workforce, I think companies were forced to adapt and they didn't have a lot of time to think. And we see a relatively smoother transition to remote work. A lot of enterprises were dreading the day that they had to go for flexible working arrangements and have their employees work remotely, but they were forced to, and to their surprise, it went on smoothly, not with the many risks that they were expecting. Having said that, so Amr is not upset with us. Still, you have to take the necessary cybersecurity arrangements. The surface attack is getting larger, and you need to protect it, and you need to protect your business. But I have to say there are a lot of opportunities in RPA, as Devesh pointed out. You can go for it's a very good time now to start rolling out some use cases based on your industry. It is time to rethink your investments in physical assets and try to build more digital ones that will take you further in the future. The opportunity of the hyperscalers being here in Qatar presents a big opportunity to businesses because eventually in some years a lot of our processes and platforms will be cloud-based. Depending on the enterprise, again, it will not be 100%, but a lot of what we do will be on the cloud. So it's a matter of time till we start moving there. With that, I would like to thank everyone who attended. I would like to thank my fellow panelists and the team at KPMG who enabled this webinar for all of us. Thank you all. We look forward to the next one, which probably will be focused on one specific sector and industry. My colleagues, each one of them here in Qatar, I think enjoyed it. We wish you a good day and see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all. Bye. Take care.
Thank you. See you.